I come from a city which for 9 years in a row has been ranked the best city in the world. I now live in a city which, in a recent report by Sole 24 Ore, ranked 95th out of 107 for one of the worst cities to live in Italy. Have I lost my mind? Palermo is riddled with inadequacies and inefficiencies. I've spoken about the creaking bureaucratic system. I've spoken about the open streets that are treated as rubbish bins. I've spoken about the rather absurd mindset of some people in this part of Italy. And I've also spoken about the driving standards, which, to be fair, wouldn't be out of place on a funfair ride. Take yesterday, for example. Driving along the road, a man decides to pull out right in front of our car. And of course, my boyfriend, being Sicilian, does his usual, "But what are you doing?" And the man just goes and drives off.
Are you crazy?
Yet Palermo, despite its dismal ranking, is the place where Italians flock to in the summer months to swim in the crystal blue sea, to eat their arancine, and just to relax and soak up the incredible climate and vibe that this city offers. Not to mention the fact that overall, Palermo was the province in Sicily with the highest volume of arrivals in 2022. That year, the combined number of international and domestic arrivals in that area totaled 1.2 million, surpassing pre-pandemic levels. And let's not forget the Japanese billionaire who chose this city to host his birthday celebration, along with 1,400 of his guests. So it can't be that bad, right? Yet this is the irony of life in Italy. Palermo is wonderful to visit, wonderful to spend holidays in, yet it's not really the place to live or to create a life. But why is that? I think in the year and a bit that I've been living here in Palermo, I've really come to understand this city on a much deeper level, and I've been able to scratch beneath the surface of the inadequacies and the problems and start to really understand how this city operates. The reality is that there are many people who live in this city who have spent hardly any time outside of Italy, if at all. And the problem is that when you stay in a particular area for a large part of your life, you don't get to see the world. You don't have anything to compare your life, your environment against. Now, comparison is always a dangerous game. I've spoken about it in one of my recent podcast episodes. I'll put the link up here. But essentially, if you don't have anything to compare yourself against as a benchmark, you are not able to realise if the life you're living is even normal, or if there are actually any inadequacies or inefficiencies, because you don't know how life operates outside of your country. So I think there is a sense of closed-mindedness in certain parts of Palermo. Not everybody. A lot of people I know have travelled extensively or have plans to travel in the future. But there are people here who have spent a large part of their lives in this city and don't really know how life operates in other parts of the world. And so for them, this is just normal. Yet for me, as an outsider coming here, I see things from a totally different perspective. And for me, I think this is why sometimes it's very difficult to live in this city. There's also a sense of living here sometimes where Palermo feels like the forgotten city. We're kind of separate from the rest of Italy. We're at the bottom of the proverbial boot, shall we say, that makes up the shape of Italy as a country. And sometimes it feels like that is literally how the government treats this part of Italy. We feel like we get everything last. There isn't as much investment made into this region of Italy. And there is a sense of how this region was extremely wealthy at one time back in the past. You can see this when you walk around the streets. The architecture, the buildings, the villas that make up this city are beautiful. So you can see that there was once a lot of wealth in this city, but gradually over time, businesses and that money transitioned to the north and central parts of Italy. And so as a result, Palermo and Sicily as a region started to decline. And in a way, even though this is a historical moment, it's still something that this city holds on to. You still feel this inside of yourself when you walk around the city and you look at the buildings and then you look at the life and then you look at the people and the way that they're living in this moment, you see that this city still holds on to that story and hasn't quite been able to let it go and try to build itself back up again. And I feel that this is a shame as well, because the fact is we can hold on to our past, absolutely. It is, after all, what makes us who we are. But there is a problem when you let that story become your present and your future. That is how I feel Palermo is at the moment as a city. It's holding on to its roots of where it was once a wealthy part of Italy and where people wanted to live and wanted to create businesses. It's holding on to that even now in 2023, and will continue to hold on to that even into the future. And the problem with that is that when you have that mindset, you are not able to free yourself from the chains of the past and create a new story for yourself as a region and create a new chapter in this region's existence. And I feel like this is another problem as well. Like, Palermo is just stuck in the past. And until it realizes that the present and future are what can change that, then unfortunately, I feel like we're going to be stuck in a rut for quite some time. Job opportunities, this is another aspect which I think has contributed to our really low ranking. Milan, for example, in the same survey ranked #1 for business and work in all of Italy. It is the hub of the business world. And unfortunately here in Italy, Sicily, Palermo, it's not really the place that you think you can create a career unless you have a specific sector with a demand in this part of Italy. And it's a shame because, you know, if there isn't that drive to create innovation, to create job opportunities here, then unfortunately this city and this part of Italy is going to continue to decline, because people are not going to stay here if they really want to progress in their education and in their work. They are going to leave and move to the north of Italy and move to other parts of Italy. Now, I think it's kind of ironic because although Milan might be #1 for business and work in this survey, it is also an extremely expensive city to live in, much the same as London. And it is also filled with crime. Milan is not really a safe city. I know people who live there and who tell me that it's not really safe to walk out at night in certain parts of Milan, coupled with the fact that the metro and certain other parts of Milan are pretty much a no-go at certain times of the day as well. So essentially, for all of the advantages that Milan may have in terms of the economy and in terms of financial opportunities, it too is not a perfect place to live. And I think these kinds of surveys are interesting because we almost pit ourselves against other cities and other parts of Italy. And, you know, there's that whole looking down on the cities that don't fare so well and patting yourself on the back for the cities that are much better. But what we need to remember is, in reality, in life even, perfection does not exist. Even for the cities that did better in this survey and ranked higher, they still have their own problems. Bureaucracy is pretty much an Italian problem, not solely linked to Palermo in Sicily. And there are other factors that affect all of Italy, not just Palermo. So I think it's always really important to take these kinds of surveys with a pinch of salt. I do feel that life here in Palermo tests me. I've spoken about it many times. In fact, this year has been a real growth opportunity for me in terms of how I manage my life here in Palermo. But I do find part of Palermo very compelling, and it is this that makes me want to continue to live in this part of Italy. Because you see, Palermo doesn't pretend to be something it isn't. It doesn't pretend to be this magnificent, incredible city with pretentious prices and just this air of superiority. Palermo is real, and with realness comes that vulnerability, comes that ruggedness, comes those imperfections. And so that's what we need to remember. Palermo is not perfect by any means. I find it an almost daily challenge to live here. But I also find something that keeps me here, and it's the fact that there is something to this city that sometimes I cannot describe very well in words in my videos. There is an enigma, a magic, a sense of strength, kind of warmth, consolidation, community. There are many different aspects to life here in Palermo that I feel that I'm still here to discover and to get to know. And the people here on a whole are wonderful. Yes, there are some crazy people like the absurd driver yesterday, But essentially you get those everywhere. Even in London, you can find some people who are particularly strange. So I just think that Palermo, for all its inadequacies, is a beautiful city. And I think everything is perspective. Everything is how you perceive it to be. And I think I want to enter 2024 with more of this mindset, because I've had a few months in this year where I felt really negative about this city. And when I saw this poll, I was almost like, told you so. And then I had to stop myself and be like, but Claire, you live here. Like, you know, this is your city. It's welcomed you with open arms. It's provided you with comfort. It's a city that stimulates your senses. It's a city that encourages me in a way to want to push myself out of my own boundaries and learn Italian and integrate more. Like, there are so many factors here, and even the challenges that I have to overcome, they help me to grow as a person in this city. So everything that I wanted from my life in Italy in terms of personal growth and development, and in a way those challenges that help you to arrive at that point, I found here in Palermo. Salerno, beautiful city, nothing negative really to say about it, other than the fact that it's small and has a limited nightlife and as such limited things to do. But essentially Salerno was never the city where I was going to grow. Palermo is the city where I am growing, and it's a process, and growth always feels uncomfortable, right? But this is what I wanted to say in this video. Don't look at these surveys and think immediately the absolute worst about a city. There is always a story behind a city. There is always something more that you don't really know that you need to explore, something that a statistic cannot represent. A statistic to say that we are 95th out of 107 cities for the worst place to live does not represent all the beautiful people that have shown me love and kindness since I moved here. All the delicious food that I have consumed that has been made by some of the most talented cooks I've ever met in my life. The beautiful sea that I bathe in every single summer. The incredible climate that I enjoy living here. I mean, I'm only just now in this type of wear in, you know, beginning part of December. Like in London, it's like minus whatever at night at the moment. So there are so many things to be grateful for about Palermo. And so this is what I wanted to say in this video. Palermo's not perfect, but then who and what is in life? Nothing. See you in the next video.